Good morning if you are on the Pacific time like I am, and good afternoon if you are on Eastern time. I am Jamila McMallow, and I am a relationship or a life and relationship strategist. Sorry, first thing in the morning. But what I actually do is I help high powered women. These are women who are high powered in their work ethic, in their attitude, who really work hard to get things done. And this morning, we are talking about healing the inner child. It's going to be myself and my colleague, Arminda Lindsay, who is a trailblazing coach who is all about redefining womanhood and helping women to really find their voice in a man's world. So I'm going to go ahead and add Arminda here to our conversation. Okay, that should have worked. Momentito. Are you there? There you
I'm here.
are. Hey,
Hi.
how are you doing?
I'm so good. I have been so excited about this conversation.
I know nothing like rushing to get on live, right? I'm like, what do I do again? Oh yeah, no, I am a life and relationship strategist. Ah,
Right? Slow down, take a big deep breath.
exactly. Oh my goodness. So anyway, this topic that we're going to be covering today is healing our inner child. Specifically, we're really talking about healing, the little girl within each of us, and we're going to focus on three main areas I thought would be awesome. Is first of all, we can talk about how healing our inner child is so important when it comes to relationships with men, because I know that's a big topic, and then also how it affects us as far as in our businesses as business owners, and even how it affects us as far as being mothers. So I thought actually we could start with motherhood and then men and then business. How does that sound?
It sounds great. I'll follow your lead. I'm here for all of it. I got stuff to say, just like you do. It all matters. We won't have enough time. So,
Yeah, exactly. There you go. There you go. So really when it comes to motherhood, what I was thinking about is when you have your own children, right? And you see how precious they are and how much they need you and how much you long to be with them constantly and nursing them and all of that, it actually kind of is jarring because you become aware of just how much you didn't get.
well, let me back that up for a second. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
not only that, well, I'll just speak for myself because
Right.
I feel like that moment when I became a mother was a moment of opening for me.
Yes.
Right, because it was seeing the difference or the gap between where I found myself as a mother
Mm-hmm.
and, oh my gosh, where I had been, where I had, who even was I, right? Like it was this invitation into myself in a way that I never had experienced, which then brought up all those questions and curiosities and I think stresses, sadness, anger, all the feels, right? About
Well,
what
and
happened.
what's interesting is I became a mother a lot later in life than you. Like I had my first child at 37, then 39, and then 41. So a lot
And
of
girl, I
the
was already an empty nester.
I know. So a lot of the challenges, as you know, with healing our inner child, really kind of start to surface, especially when we hit our mid 30s, late 30s. That's when we're really like, ooh, and when we hit 40, we're like, well, wait a minute now. And so I was already in that, at that time. So I feel like for me, it was like the perfect time of life to become a mother because the version of myself that I was so much better than the version I would have been if I had had kids 10 years prior, and I'm just speaking for myself.
Yeah.
But so the awareness of, that there was a gap, I did already have, but I don't think it's really until you see it, like with there's certain things you can't wrap your head around. Like, I don't understand. I don't understand how you could, I just, I just, my kids have never had a babysitter where I've left the house. I've had someone come over and watch them for a couple of hours, and that's not a judgment, but that's just me being overprotective. And we lost a child. And I think that when you lose a child, it completely changes the way that you parent and the way that you see things, because it's no longer that, oh, nothing's going to happen. No, the worst has happened. And so you're always kind of on more high alert. But anyway, I digress from there. So anyway.
Well, I mean, I know that we're digressing, but I actually think this is relevant because like I'm thinking and putting myself so at 25. And then I became a single mother at 28. So the loss, right, that I experienced was suddenly, oh my God, like completely on my own in a place with a little person completely dependent on me. So all of that opening, I guess, just to say to anyone watching, right, you come to your opening, to your awakening, your awarenesses when you come to them, and it's always the perfect time for you. I think for me, there was so much growth that I experienced simultaneously with the raising of my daughter. For you, you had the privilege. I mean, it's a privilege, right? Like that you got to, for all the reasons that you did, you had openings and awarenesses that brought you to the point where like, oh my gosh, now I'm a mom, and you bring all that in. How amazing and blessed are your kids? And same with my daughter, who's gotten the benefit along the way of my growth and opening.
Right.
But it's those little ones inside of us that we have, you and I, right, that we have been working with and talking to and holding in the same way that we hold our actual precious little ones. So
yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Perfect timing on all of it.
Yes. And it's also interesting too, because I don't know if this is true of you, at times you'll start to find yourself becoming your mother. So, in certain ways that you do things. And so that's funny too. But I know for myself, I didn't have an overly critical mother. So I can say that, in that way, that's a good thing. Like my parents, they never called us names, or any of those things. And I want to say this too, to anyone who's watching, is that this conversation is really not about passing judgment on our parents, saying that they were bad people, that they made all these mistakes. Absolutely not. We are grateful and thankful for what we had. However, us simply speaking the truth of our experience, we're allowed to do that. And how a child perceives their reality, it just is what it is, right? And I know you too, through your work and through my own as well, we've each come to that place to where we've forgiven our parents, for the mistakes that we feel like they made, for the things that we didn't get. But what we're sharing today is why it's so important to do the work to get to that place. Because if you don't, then you are coming from this unhealed, really hurt place. That's never a good place. It's never a good place to make decisions from, when you're hurt and holding on to resentment or any sort of bitterness or anything like that. Yep. I don't see your whole name, but ADT Link. Yes. A loving mother absolutely can make all the difference. And
yeah, that's Andy. That's my friend Andy. So hi, Andy.
Okay. Hi, Andy. So yes, absolutely. And I know that I can say that of you, and I can say that of myself with my kids, is that being loving is like, we're like, oh, I'm sure your daughter's like, oh, mom, stop hugging me, stop kissing me. It's enough already. So
I know. I like to smooch her cheeks. She has like the best cheeks. My daughter's 23 years old, and I still smooch her cheeks. And the best time, Jamila, this, is morning, right after they wake up, right? Because they've been laying on the cheek, and it's like, just give it to me. I just need that cheek. And then I like flip her over, like, give me the other. She's like, oh my, stop. So
I know my son, he's almost 4 now. And so he's lost the baby fat cheeks. He's looking like a little boy. But my daughter, who's 1, she's still, I just smush and squeeze and hug. And I still squeeze him because I can still pick him up, not for as long. But anyway, we're
digressing into the sweetness of baby cheeks. Yes. Here's something I wanted to say. Andy, thank you. I'm a big fan of you too. What if we're to underscore and really shine a light on why this work is so important, why it's so important to go in. And when I say in, I mean to connect with your little one, your younger version of you, in order to fix, heal, resolve. It's for this. Like, if we look at it, this is a funny saying, but I tell my clients this. I remind myself, what we focus on grows.
Absolutely.
And if we are holding onto resentment and anger, if we are blaming and we are still like kind of casting daggers, as it were, at anyone. I mean, in this case, we happen to be talking about like parents. That's what we're going to actually create and generate more of that. Absolutely. So more anger, more resentment, more weight in your world, and weight doesn't allow us to be very agile, right? We're not going to actually be moving very far or go very many places because we're holding on to the past.
Yes.
So,
and I'm also, so with the work that I do an accelerated inner healing with my clients, because I am not of the school of thought that you have to sit in hurt feelings, sit in pain for years or years, claim I'm a victim and I can't change. I don't buy into that. Every single last one of my clients has experienced trauma, including things as bad as rape and molestation and physical abuse from a husband, all of those things, emotional abuse, all of those things. But, and of course I don't work with all women, but when you are a certain way, you know, if you're high achieving, driven, focused, determined, and you've kind of proven that in your professional life by the way that you kind of go after everything, what I'm really good at is helping my clients to take those qualities and put that into themselves so that they take that drive and focus on their own healing, and they're able to do it in a way that's at their own pace, but it doesn't require them to be sitting around for years just talking about the same old stories and the same old stuff. And here's the funny thing is when people say to me, oh, I'm over it, or oh, I've let it go. No, you haven't, because you just told me about it. And listen, if you haven't properly acknowledged, healed, and released and healed a wound from your childhood, you can sit there and say, I don't think about it, it's not relevant all day long, but it is sitting right in your face, impacting every decision you make, impacting how you see the world, impacting every single one of your relationships. So it is always right here, all up in your face. You're just pretending like, oh, I don't see that elephant, I don't smell it, I don't hear it, life is good. Okay, keep doing that, because it's showing up in your relationships. Even if you're winning professionally, right? You're making the money, you've got the clients, you're doing your thing, but in your personal life is where the little girl version of you will always show up. Because if she's driving the bus and she's still hurt and she's still sad and she's still angry and still feeling unseen, unheard, she's driving the bus of your life into the ditch in your personal life. And you'll really see that show up in your relationships with men. So I guess that's kind of a good segue for us to swing right on into that.
I mean, like, I'm 100% amen on a Wednesday, okay? And I want to say I agree with you, and I think it shows up everywhere. I think we don't think that it shows up in our professional space, and I think that's a misnomer, because the reality is, if that 7-year-old, randomly assigned age, but if that 7-year-old is driving the bus of your personal life, guess what? That bus is the same bus that you're riding professionally.
This is true.
Because how we do anything is how we do everything.
Yep.
Let me say that again for the people in the back. How you do anything is how you do everything. So if you have not resolved this little issue, that, by the way, we know. How do we know that it hasn't been resolved? Because it's the first thing that you're going to bring up. It's the first thing you're going to reference. It's the first person you're going to blame. It's the first thing that you're going to pull out of that magic hat of yours to be like, well, it's because of this. So what wants to be resolved, I love telling people this, listen, we don't need to ever go digging for material, because what wants to be resolved will always rise to the surface.
Oh, yeah.
Always. It's right here. It's right here. So we're just going to like take it.
But this is what's interesting is that, so I love what you say, because I highlight that because when a person is successful professionally, they a lot of times don't conclude that they have an emotional barrier or block because they are winning. They're a winner. They're successful. They're a high achiever. They got good grades. They're doing all the things. And so this part, the personal side, it does feel like a disconnect, even though it's not really. But here's the thing. In your professional life, you get to show up as whoever you want to be. In school, you get to show up as whoever you want to be. So no matter what your background, you could get good grades and show up and become this different person that's separate from the person who you really are. And so I think that's what happens, is that early on, women develop a disconnection from themselves, which I know you agree with. And so they become this version of themselves that absolutely works in, the doer, the goer, the beer. I'm there for everybody. I'm the rock, whatever. But what they're not really doing is making themselves a priority, putting their needs first, focusing on what they really want. Like, they drive themselves in this direction, but they get to, the late 30s, early 40s, and they go, wait a minute, is this what I should be doing? Or is this where I want it to be? I don't know anymore. I was just going and doing and being. And so I really think that it's a disconnection, that they're not showing professionally. They are who they want people to think they are. And that's, and here's the thing is, I honor that, because that disconnection was a protection. When they were a little girl, they had to learn how to cope with a certain amount of pain, a certain amount of trauma. And so they had to separate from their emotions. And even though it doesn't help in personal relationships, it has absolutely allowed them to overcome adversity, to not be stumbled at setbacks, because they can just keep, their emotions are not right on front, keeping them from doing what they need to do. So in that way it works, right? But at some point there has to be this, because if this doesn't happen, this is the healing, right? The coming back together. Yeah. This is how we really just knock it out of the park with everything. Otherwise, it's this constant balancing act and struggle. And I love that, Andy, you said it's the same for guys too. I can imagine, men are really expected to be a certain way, and they're not allowed to express and show so much about themselves. So anyway, you had a thought, Arminda?
Well, yeah, I'm just curious, Jamila, if you have seen, because this is what I've seen in my work with my clients, that disconnection coping mechanism that you're describing, 100% yes. Like, I see that. How does it show up though, if we haven't resolved or healed those primary relationships from our childhood? It is impacting, right? It informs all of our relationships, even the professional ones. So while I have clients who are like uber successful professionally for this very reasons you're describing, and Andy, I think you can relate to this too. I'm so glad you're here on this call and getting so much out of this. But it's like, if it's informing the way we tend to keep others at a distance.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean,
they don't really know us. They don't. Nope. And we are so busy going and doing and being, because then the focus is never on us. Right. And because people are so like, wow, she's always there for me, she's doing so much, they never really stop to say, wait a minute, what does she need? Because that's uncomfortable, right? So you're right. You're absolutely right. I'm just saying, sometimes, well, not sometimes, a lot of times, this is why people don't get it. They don't think they have a problem or issue. Right.
Well, and let's just
until they get burnt out, right?
Right.
Until
Yeah.
Burnt out.
Yeah. Exhaustion, anxiety, stress, burnout. And I think, I have a client right now who's kind of in this place and confronting, oh my gosh, am I even doing anything of value or worth in the world? Right? Like, it's like kind of like this really massive confrontation that comes up. And I think, no, Andy, it's not telling him to grow up. It's actually going in and loving him.
Yes.
It's going in and actually connecting with him at a level of seeing and being and presence that he never got.
Yes.
That's when we talk about the healing, it's recognizing, and both Jamila and I have really really fun techniques and methodologies that we use to, I loved your phrasing, Jamila, where you expedite this, right? Like it's a fast track,
yeah.
right? We're fast tracking to healing. And Daniela, hi, so good to have you here.
Hey, Daniela.
Right, because what we want to do is take that little one with you,
yes,
and connect and say, you, current version of you, are all the things that little young you never got. That young you is still hurting and angry at mom or dad or both or grandparents or primary figures in our lives, to say and recognize they were actually doing the best they could with what they understood at the time. And right now, you have all the tools you need to actually be the one to hold, love, and carry that little one inside of you. And it's like the resolution of that.
Yes. Because that right there, a lot of people think that they need to have a conversation or they need to try to talk to their mother or their father. No. In fact, I discourage that wholeheartedly, because they come from a time and a generation, because usually my clients are my age bracket. You know, I'm 43, you know, somewhere around in here, you know, but like late 30s, early 40s. And so our parents didn't come from an era where they're sitting around talking about feelings and all this stuff. It's like, what are you talking about? And here's the other thing. Everybody's journey is their own.
Yes.
And it's not our job to shine a floodlight on somebody and try to take them somewhere they're not ready to go. Our own healing within ourselves has nothing to do with our parents and where they're at. We have to respect them where they are. And that's where the forgiveness, when we get to that point, comes in, is that we come to accept them for where they are and leave it. And stop trying to hope and wish and change, and just accept that they are where they are. And that's okay, because we, you, me, have the ability now to go in, as you said, and bring forth that inner child and love her, hear her, acknowledge her. Because that's what it is these unheard wounds that nobody ever acknowledged. We can acknowledge them for ourselves. We can speak into them for ourselves, and then allow ourselves to release and heal. A lot of times we think healing happens with someone outside of ourselves. And by that, I don't mean like a guide, like what we do, like a coach or something like that. I mean that we think we have to go to the person and get closure. I hate that word. It's so stupid. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean a thing. Because it doesn't have anything to do with anyone outside of you. It has to do with you.
Yeah.
Recognizing, acknowledging, and giving yourself that which you actually are able to do. What a tremendous amount of power to reclaim and to recognize that you have, that you are not at the mercy of the whims of other people.
Hello, amen, again on a Wednesday, because the only work that is ever being done is inside of me.
Yes, yes.
If I need to heal and fix a relationship with my mother, with my brother, with my daughter, with the neighbor from when I was the only relationship, here's the little secret. The relationship that you got to fix is you.
Yes.
That's it. And when you go, and the way we do that is magically amazing. It is that little one inside of you.
Yep.
Or the 23-year-old inside of you that felt injured. My daughter, I got to shout out to my daughter. I guess I'm shouting out to myself because I taught her this, but here's, yay, mom. But,
yes.
you know, here's the thing. She uses a tool. I'll share it with everybody right now. Here's a giveaway. Here's a tool. If you find yourself injured, insulted, offended, upset because of someone else's action, behavior, or language, and you find yourself, I can't believe she said that to me. I can't believe they just did that. Can you even? That's what I call, that's a flag on the field moment. All play stops. You go inside, and here's the question you ask. What rule did they just violate? Because the rules are inside your own head. And you get to just like stop everything and go, okay, what rule that I made up, by the way, was just violated. And right there, whew, it's like you get to just be with yourself and the one of you that made that rule in the first place, that feels now this righteous indignation
Right.
that Jamila just broke a rule that Jamila didn't even know existed, because it was only ever always in Arminda's head.
Right. Right. Yep.
And that's what we're saying, this beautiful opportunity and invitation to take all of those injuries,
Yes.
right, that we're carrying around, these hurts that we just pile on layer after year after decade, that are just heavy.
Yes.
And say, what if we could just let those go by getting in touch with that little one that felt like, oh, that was wrong and you shouldn't have done that to me. That was not the way the game was supposed to be played.
Right. And so speaking into that, because when it comes to having relationships with men, this is such a huge, oh my goodness, huge. There are so many women who are suffering and who constantly keep attracting liars, cheaters, and abusers because they have not gotten in touch with and healed the little girl inside themselves that was never heard, never seen, never acknowledged, never validated, never made to feel loved. And so this is my sweet spot, right? This is what I do is I teach high achieving women how to stop attracting liars, cheaters, and abusers, because it is possible. See, that's
okay. Third amen on a Wednesday. Ladies.
Because you'll hear women say, oh, there's no good men, they're this, they're that. And it's like, stop it. You have no control over the men on the planet. The only one you can control is you. And the only question you ever need to ask yourself is why?
Yeah.
Do I keep drawing this type of
thinking
man?
The common denominator here is
why am I attracted to this? And I'll tell you briefly, because it's what's going on in our subconscious mind. We live what we learn, right? So if our parents' relationship or marriage was dysfunctional or abusive, or if our, then that's what we're used to. That's our norm. So even though in our conscious mind we'll go, oh, I want a loving guy, that's fantastic and great and normal and all this, our mind is going, whatever, girl. We don't believe that's possible. We don't believe that's true. This is our story. This is what's normal. We're going to go find what's normal. Hey, you got, can I fix you? Do you have some problems? Come on. I invite you into my life. But it's all unconscious.
Jump on the fix-it train.
And so, and then even worse yet, if your father, let's say, was not in your life at all, right? The abandonment issue that so many women feel and struggle with, that loss of wondering why I wasn't good enough, why I wasn't lovable enough for him to stick around and come to see me and make me a priority. Because if my own father didn't want me, then why would any other man ever want me? And so I will accept and put up with that which I'm just so grateful to have, which is any man that's giving me attention. That's the underlying story and belief that a lot of times will happen. And it's so crazy, right? Because again, as we talked about, disconnected, high achieving, high performing women succeeding, making all this money, and ending up with guys that are like, what? And then their minds are going, well, I think it's my money. Good men don't want me. They're intimidated by me. It has nothing to do with any of that. It's what's happening on the inside of you on a subconscious level, that unhealed inner little girl that you're totally disconnected from, who is calling out and magnetizing that which she believes to be true about the world. She's looking for something. And if until you reconnect with her and allow her to heal, you will keep calling in this same situation. Like, to your point you said earlier, it's always right in front of you. It's your mind is trying to show you this is the issue, right? How many relationships, how many times you have to have your heart broken before you go, yeah, I may need to do something about this. I may need to take a look, that it's something going on inside, and not that there's something wrong with you. Right. It's just acknowledging that there is something unhealed, a wound that has to be addressed. Just like if your arm is broken, you go to the doctor, you get it fixed. So that little girl wound absolutely can be healed, absolutely can be fixed, so that then you can go out and have what you want, right? So you can talk. I've been talking for a minute.
Well, this is all good. We are here for the minute, right? Like, because it is just this. My friends, I love you. And I repeat this every day. I love you and you are not broken. And I just want to underscore that. We're not any of us broken. All that we are is carrying around the weight of wounds.
Yes.
That we have not released.
Yes.
That's it. So who would you be without that weight, without that that burden that you are carrying? Like, can you even see her, feel her, experience her? And that's the opportunity. Here's the best news. Like, this is actually the best news. When we recognize that we don't actually identify ourselves based on outer experience or other people, that is only always an inside job. Here's what's so beautiful about that. I can work with me. I have 100% control and ownership of what goes on inside of me.
Yes.
So knowing for me, and for my clients, when I can like show them that, how it's actually not your mom's fault. It's not your dad's fault. It's not anyone's fault. It's just an invitation. And the invitation is coming from inside of you.
Yes.
And oh my golly, let's get in there.
Yes.
Let's get in there and let's see her. Let's be with her. Let's address. And I love what you said. And I just want to shout it again. It's like, give her a voice. That's what we get to do. Give her a voice. And when she gets a chance to speak and you get a chance to listen, and then it's like, oh, I can fix this for you. Ooh, it's like,
yes.
I'm so glad we're on video, because like there aren't words for that, but it's like, whoa, okay.
And listen, and let me say this to that. I don't know how many clients that I have had that they have that disconnection, but it's almost a struggle. They've been disconnected for so long. They've been playing it strong, playing it hard, just going after it for so long that they almost don't even know how to feel anymore. And they can show up for other people and they can be that for them. And not saying they don't have emotions, but they almost can't cry anymore. They don't feel free to allow themselves to just weep, to let because little kids are very in touch with their emotions. Yes. They cry all the time. And that's a release, and that's good. And we shouldn't stop our children from crying, because you know what? That's how we all ended up the way we ended up before we got the help we needed to heal, because we had a bunch of tears that nobody wanted to hear and told us to shut up, be quiet, stop making so much noise. All these messages that we got, that we were not allowed to express our emotions, that emotions were bad. They needed to be hidden. They needed to be stuffed down. And so I am an absolute firm believer in the fact that people suffer because they don't know how to release and process their emotions. They just keep stuffing them and stuffing them. And so when I am talking to my clients, I say, there's no judgment. This is confidential. If something comes up, let it out, because they will automatically, as a way of being, stuff it back down. And I can feel it because I'm an empath, right? And I'm like, ooh, she's right there. It's right here. Oh, let it out. And she's like, ooh, and it goes right back down. And I'm like, no, you were almost there. The release.
Well,
and so it's that they haven't even given permission to cry, to feel sad, to feel negative emotions. And so that's what we do, is give them that space and allow them to give themselves permission. Because listen, when you're conditioned as a little girl that crying is bad, you get punished, you get hit, you get yelled at when you show emotion, you will learn real quick how to protect your behind.
Absolutely.
So that's where the disconnection starts.
Yeah. And let's talk for a minute about what happens with years of compressing, years of the stuffing down and the not releasing. And I'll say it even sometimes shows up and looks like you shame other people for doing it.
Yes.
Right. And
She's
so what?
Weak.
Yeah, like you're weak, like you're this, you're that. Oh my gosh, all the stuff going on, the bullshit going on about Simone Biles right now. Like, what do we think? Like it's let the emotion, I always say, better out than in. We want to get it out, because anytime we're crying or screaming, raging, or emoting in any way, that is a release. That is a healing. That is a letting out of what we have held in and
Yes.
onto for so too long.
Yep.
And if we are constantly damping down, right? And I put grief in this category too,
Oh,
Jamila.
absolutely.
I mean, hello. My dad passed away a year ago, June, and I have so many people that, would have said things to me like, "Oh, aren't you over that yet?"
You listen. I like I said, my son died. You do not get over, and I don't know what your beliefs are and things like that, but mine are is that I will see my son again in the resurrection, and I will see him again. And even though I have that hope, that doesn't change the pain, the fact that there's still a hole in my heart. And so when people say things like what they said to you about your father, that's so stupid, because you don't do that. You don't do that, and you don't.
Yeah.
What does that mean? So you're so out of touch with your emotions and feelings that you can't understand that someone would still be sad about a loss that they can't do anything about, that they have to find a way to live with, a hole that's never going to be complete until that person comes back into their life. No.
Look, we could do a whole thing on grief, because I got so much to say about it. But right. let me finish this thread, because look, I think when we are just like pressing things in or feeling like it's not okay, it's not permissible, it's not PC to emote. And then over time, because that builds and builds and builds and builds and builds, it's a little bit like, any of y'all done any pressure canning, right? You've worked with a pressure cooker. My parents are big canners and preservers of food, right? So you get this big pressure cooker, and you put your jars in there, and you put a little bit of water in there, and then you put the lid on, you twist it shut, and then you seal it, and you seal the gasket, and then you've got this actual literal pressure gauge. So you're watching the pressure inside this container rise and rise and rise and rise, and it gives you a moment where it's like it gives you a signal, and it's like, you got to release this valve, and if you don't release this valve, this entire container will explode. And that is literally what we are doing inside of our physical bodies.
Yep.
When we do not access and release and give permission to ourselves. And I'm going to tell you,
yes.
What does that look like? That looks like being medicated. It looks like mental breakdowns. It looks like panic attacks. It looks like anxiety, stress. It looks like exhaustion.
And I'm no doctor, but I believe there is a correlation, a strong correlation, between unresolved emotional trauma and autoimmune illnesses.
Only 100%. I'm with you.
I just believe that there's a connection. I don't believe anything's just random. I don't believe that.
Well, think about it. If you are holding all that in, it's got to go somewhere.
Yes,
it's got to go somewhere.
To break down your body so much so that your body turns on itself. So yeah. And, and I love that you said that, because you also bring out a good point in that even though, these women may find themselves disconnected from the real emotion, which is hurt, frustration, sadness, loneliness, the one emotion that they fully embrace, anger, ain't got no problem screaming, yelling, giving you the what for and the who you now and what then. And so that is their default emotion, because it makes them feel empowered and strong and not like they're being weak. And they could have, and more than likely, they also saw this modeled tremendously by their parents in that relationship, in that household. There probably was a lot of yelling, perhaps physical punishment and all those types of things. You're so right, Daniela. It absolutely is. And that's our point, Danielle. Really. That's our point. That's why we're saying, hey, you got to heal the little girl within.
All right, let's drop a
truth to be able to really do anything, right? And now I just want to make sure we touch on this last point really quick, Arminda, and that is, if we're business owners, how does not healing the little girl within affect us? And I would say, especially when it comes to money, if we have any issues around money, then this is going to come up for us as a business owner. We're going to struggle to charge our prices. We're
Yeah.
going to struggle to ask for what we feel we deserve because we don't feel worthy or whatever. And did you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. It's not a whatever. It's I don't feel worthy.
Yeah.
Right. Let's call that what it is.
Yeah.
And here, look, I love you. I love you, Jamila, and I do. I just have so much love because this little one, and it's true for every single person on this planet, we peel back these hurts, these wounds, these traumas that we all carry.
Yes.
At the root of all of it is this fear that I'm not lovable.
Yes.
That I'm not worthy of being loved, of being chosen. And I just want to scoop you up, and I want to show you how to scoop up your little one because she is worthy. She is so beyond lovable. She is actually only love. I mean, Jamila, you've got this precious 1-year-old right now, right?
I know.
And when you look at your face, just like you're just thinking about her, and what is it? It's just love, right?
Yes.
Is she anything other than love?
No, she just
in physical form.
And even my son, I mean, he's getting bigger now. He's like, okay, but I'm like,
right.
But it's true. That's all little balls of just, love running around.
Running around. I feel the same way about my 23-year-old. And the same is true about me. Because I was once that little precious bundle of nothing but love on arrival. Like that's how we incarnated.
Yep.
Right? And the only thing that has happened from the time that we were being kissed and loved on and going, oh, because we're just so kissable, is that we've believed something about ourselves that isn't true.
Yep.
And we're carrying it. And it's just time to release it so that your business thrives and expands and grows and blesses other people, so that your relationships with your partners is healthy and healed and exactly what your dreams are made of, so that your relationships with your parents are exactly what they have always been meant to be, love.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to say. I believe it's possible because I've done it.
Yes. Yep. In fact, that's what's so key, is that as coaches, we can't take our clients any further than we've already gone. And so it's a constant journey that we're on. And we recognize that we have to continue. Even though we are helping our clients, we each have our blind spots and our areas that we have to continue digging into. And so we continue to do our own work and to set not only a proper example, but really leading from an example, because we haven't arrived. We haven't figured it all out. We're still a work in progress because, I mean, there's just so much to unpack, right? And we're like little onions. We peel back one layer and then we get the next layer and layer, et cetera, et cetera. But with each layer, the woman that we become, that we step into, is like, woo-wee, I am feeling it,
I like her so much.
Fire. And we magnetize and attract women who want that level. Like, I want to be there. And you're like, come on, you're coming with me. And then when you move up again, you bring, what I'm saying? And so it's just like, and so I just love this topic. This is the heart and soul of what I do, is healing that little girl, that childhood trauma, that starting point for all of this stuff. And I want to just give you a moment, Arminda, before we sign off, to maybe just speak into what you do, in case anybody feels a connection to you and just wants to understand what your focus is. I introduced you as a trailblazing coach for women who are who you're really redefining womanhood, helping women to find their voice in a man's world. I don't know if that accurately sums it up, but I'll let you kind of just let folks know what it is that you do and why you're so great.
Thank you. I am great, Jamila. I own that. I own that so much. Yes. And I just want to say, Daniela just made a comment I think is so important. I just want to acknowledge it because it doesn't show up on the recording. And for let people know, there's nowhere to get. We're already here. And I think it's so true. That is my work. That is my work, is to take women inside themselves. It's the re-accessing and the opening and reintroduction to you, of you. And it's the who you've always been all along. And that is just love. And
Mm-hmm.
then once we've accessed that love, whoo, what are you doing with it? How are
Right.
you sharing, spreading, creating, and giving that? Because that's the essence of womanhood. It
Right.
is that opportunity and invitation, first with and as and for myself. And then secondly, what does that look like as you kind of like just emit that goodness that
And you
you
know what?
are?
I almost feel like what you really are doing is helping women to emerge. The woman who feels like she didn't have a voice, that was kind of taught to acquiesce to men, that never really felt like she had any power or could stand up and be on her own. She's awesome, but I feel like you really help them to connect so that they can emerge and step out with that confidence and that feeling of knowing who she is, what she wants, and all of that. Does that sound about right?
It's 100% true. And I know it because I've walked the path, because that is me. And that's where I've been. And I have been doing this work with and for and as myself for a very long time now. And letting go, releasing these layers, these misunderstandings, these misidentifications of me.
Yeah.
What is the truth about me? And who am I actually? You know, the visual that I always get is Clark Kent, except the female version, right? Of Clark Kent. It's like, what does he do? He opens his shirt to reveal
Right.
like that he's actually Superman
Mm-hmm.
underneath. And I think it's this revelation of who are you actually underneath. You're amazing. You're amazing. This
Yes.
superwoman underneath. And it's like, yeah, let's expose her.
Yes, I love that. And
Yeah.
so, for those of you who maybe are watching this, seeing myself and Arminda for the first time, I am Jamila McMallow. I am a life and relationship strategist, serving high-powered women. And by high-powered, I mean in work ethic, attitude, women who get stuff done. And I work with my clients using an accelerated, deep, inner healing emotional methodology where we really target and go after um, helping you to stop attracting men who are liars, cheaters, and abusers. And the root of it all is, again, healing the little girl within, that childhood trauma, going right on down in there and doing that work so that you no longer are a magnet for all the nonsense, shenanigans, and heartbreak that you have been experiencing throughout your adulthood. So let's get it done. So if you are interested in working with Arminda, her handle is at all Arminda,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then mine is at Coach Jamila LV. You can click the link in my bio and schedule a call, or send me a DM, or send her a DM, and just let's chat and get to know each other and figure out what's going on. But I want to thank you all so much for tuning in and watching us. Arminda, thank you. Always a pleasure. We will do this again. Daniela, thanks for hanging in there with us and for giving us our feedback. I'm so glad that you enjoyed this, and we look forward to seeing you all next time. All right. And I'm going to share this on IGTV. So whether you're watching this live or the replay, thank you for watching. All right. See you in a little bit, Arminda.
Take care.